All right, everybody, welcome in after Thursday Night Football. I'm sure that Richard Sherman is going off right now. I can't wait to watch the replay of that on YouTube, Twitter, wherever. This is their 49ers Thursday night roster breakdown. It's a tradition every single week. But first, we come to you with an important message. Russell Wilson's short game is trash. Oh my God, that was something else. And it wasn't just a short game, it was the decision making too. Here the Broncos are up by 3. Their opponent, the Colts, doesn't have a single timeout left. And Russell Wilson is on 3rd and short, throwing into the end zone. He's throwing a pick into the end zone. Are you kidding me? And that opened the door for the Colts, who had done nothing offensively all night long, to face some deadline pressure with a chance. And Matt Ryan drove them all the way downfield. They tied the game up. They forced overtime. And, even after overtime was forced, even after the Colts had to kick the field goal with Chase McLaughlin, who had been weathered by kicking for the 49ers against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in 2019 and kicking one into the tunnel in overtime. Even after Chase McLaughlin tied the game and then gave the Colts the lead, the Broncos still had a chance, and they completed that big pass, Wilson to Jerry Jeudy. They're in position to at least tie the game, maybe win it, but then they just go cold again. They just go limp again. And the reason that we're talking about Russell Wilson's short game right now is because that 4th down to end the game, that was all short game. You either have to trust in the short game or not. Plus, it's all condensed with the red zone, right? That back line is right there. And Wilson's release was Wilson's release was slow. Wilson's sidearm action was like, what the hell is he even doing? It just looked like he was doing it for show. It didn't even appear to open a throwing lane. And because of all that, unnecessary arm movement, slow release, slow decision-making in the short game, the throw was batted down by Stephon Gilmore. Now, Wilson has a notoriously bad short game compared to the rest of his game, right? His improv game, at least in the past, I don't know about this year, but his improv game had always been his strong suit. Good deep game, right? He'd always put those balls on the money to DK Metcalf, to Tyler Lockett in Seattle. This year in Denver, that's not happening. And that short game going back to the Super Bowl where he tried to throw to Ricardo Lockett and it was intercepted by Malcolm Butler, only that bad short game is showing up for Russell Wilson. So, boy, but to the Denver fans who want to cut Russell Wilson, sorry, you're out of luck, because if the Broncos cut Russell Wilson right now or anytime really within the next few months, they'd be on the hook for $107 million in dead money, because Russell Wilson signed a 5-year, $245 million deal full of over $100 million in guaranteed money. So if you cut him now, all of that guaranteed money that is currently prorated because of the signing bonus that's currently hitting the cap in future years, it would hit the salary cap right when you cut him. So that means $107 million dead money hit. It means that the Broncos are stuck with Russell Wilson, and it means that he better figure it out, because he has not been good this season. They just lost to the Raiders. He wasn't good against the 49ers, although the 49ers obviously lost that game. The first week of the season, we still remember that game against the Seahawks, right, where the Broncos lost. I don't think Wilson was terrible in that game. They lost because of their coach and that decision-making. And then week 2, that was Nathaniel Hackett. We should probably name him. Week 2, the Broncos beat the Texans, but they had some offensive struggles. So, I wouldn't overreact too far in any direction about what way Russell Wilson is trending. I just thought it was funny that there's some Broncos fans that want him cut. Well, it's not going to happen. $107 million would go down the drain in dead money. All I can say, then, this is not an overreaction, because I've seen Russell Wilson play for years. If you can take away that deep game, if you can take away the improv game, which age, father time might take away on its own, the short game isn't good. And that goes back to the Super Bowl with the Malcolm Butler interception. So anyway, I still, there's going to be a lot of reaction right now. Some of it's going to be overreaction right now. Richard Sherman's probably going crazy on Amazon Prime right now. I can't wait to watch that a little bit later. I think Richard Sherman does a good job with a lot of his analysis, but he definitely in this situation is going to go the extra mile, because the history between him and Russell Wilson. But for whatever comes out, I again would not overreact too far in any single direction. I'm not one of these people that makes blanket judgments off of one game in the NFL. I make this judgment on the screen about Russell Wilson's short game based on watching him for a decade. The short game, probably because he is short, probably because he doesn't have as good a vision over the line as most quarterbacks, just isn't good. He, entering the 49ers game, he had only completed one pass over the middle of the field, over 10 yards in the air. So it's not just a short game, it's that middle of the field that's tough for Russell Wilson, and it probably is because of his stature. But anyway, there is time to turn this around for both of these offenses. It's interesting to me that the Colts beat the Chiefs, right? And that's Patrick Mahomes, who's playing well right now. And obviously, the Broncos did beat the 49ers. And, you got to say, yes, the 49ers loss in Denver was not ideal because Russell Wilson wasn't very good in that game either. I mean, 9 3-and-outs the Broncos offense against that vaunted 49ers defense. All it would have taken is a little bit more from the 49ers offense. But I mean, everything that we've seen so far, and I get it, this game was in October, but everything we've seen from the 49ers so far, especially pre-Rams, which was actually in September, it's almost like you got to treat it like the preseason these days, right? Teams are taking preseason a whole lot less seriously than they did in the past. They're resting guys. Teams also can't really take training camp as intensely as they did in the past. And I think one of the byproducts of it is some ugly football throughout the first few weeks of the season. And you have teams just kind of jockeying for position, just, it's kind of like the pace car is going around the lap, right? And teams are just kind of, waiting for that green flag to fly so they can really put the pedal to the metal. And I feel that's what October is about. That's what November is going to be about. I always talk about this being a marathon and not a sprint. So, everybody's going to, what if the 49ers lost in Denver? And, my what if would be, well, what if that game were in October? What if it were in November, after we actually know what these football teams are, what the identity of these teams is moving forward? So I wouldn't, read all too far into it. All that we know today is that Denver fans are extremely upset because they're going to be reactionary. They're going to want Russell Wilson cut, but sorry, it's not going to happen. $107 million in dead money for a short game that has never been good, to be honest, from Russell Wilson. And the Broncos have to find an identity, or they have to find it fast, or else they're going to be calling for heads there in Denver with a new head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, if they're not already doing that right now. Anyway, October is when NFL teams round to form, so it is a perfect time to do our 49ers Thursday night roster breakdown. So why don't I get this up on the screen? Why don't we share the screen? Looks like everybody's filing in. Looks like we're going to have a good crowd tonight, which is always really fun. There it is, the 49ers 70-man roster as it stands right now. We can go through this position by position, talk about some of the latest discoveries. I was in the facility yesterday, Wednesday. I was in the facility today, made the drive back up. You guys know I like to go to the team bars to check out the scene in the city. So I made it for the end of that game, maybe the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and overtime to the Broncos bar, which is Nikki's on Haight Street in the lower Haight of San Francisco. And there was at least one very, very angry Broncos fan after that game ended. He thought that they had it won when they hit Jerry Jeudy on that deeper pass, but it didn't work out. Anyway, now to our other Thursday night tradition, which is breaking down the 49ers roster. Why don't we make this a little bit bigger? I got a couple pieces of news, couple pieces of intel from the 49ers facility today. So as we talk about this, go ahead and prepare your questions. We'll combine this with the 49ers Q&A, pop them into the comment section, and we will check them out. I'm going to scroll all the way down. Sorry if I don't get to your question that you've asked already, because I haven't been in there at all. But I just noticed the very last comment. Denver booing and UQB is absolutely bizarre. But they paid him $245 million, and the contract is worth that much. They paid him over $100 million guaranteed. So you could see how there's restlessness to get this turned around as quickly as possible. All right. That's funny. He's the opposite of Jimmy. That's really funny. He wasn't opposite of Jimmy against Denver. He's opposite of Jimmy on Monday night. That's for sure. Hey, here's one thing. If Jimmy Garoppolo put together tonight's performance, then 49ers Twitter would probably cease to exist. If Jimmy Garoppolo threw that interception to give the Colts a chance to come back in that game, if Jimmy Garoppolo missed on, was that bad and that like clunky on a short pass with a chance to win it a little bit later, the 49ers fans would be out with their pitchforks. I mean, the 49ers fans are unfair to Jimmy Garoppolo when he plays a good game. They're trying to say that he should have thrown the Ayuk after one of the best passes from any NFL quarterback this season to George Kittle. Oh, he should have thrown the Ayuk, even though it would have gotten batted down by Aaron Donald. Or, they try to just kind of irrationally criticize that Charlie Warner pass. I talked to Charlie about it yesterday. He said it was just football. There's a mix-up left and right. The 49ers fans are just rabid. They're looking for every little tiny mistake that Jimmy Garoppolo makes without realizing that every single quarterback is missing throws. And, maybe today will help the 49ers discourse because you can see both Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. These are two quarterbacks who have, I believe, at least 4 Pro Bowls apiece, more than that. But they said on the broadcast that it would have been the first time with 2 QBs with at least 4 Pro Bowls apiece led a game in which there were no touchdowns scored. So it was, right? Because this game just came down to field goals at the end of the day. So this made history. Well, you see this game and you understand that, good quarterback play doesn't just grow on trees. And, maybe when you do get a game of good quarterback play, like the 49ers got with Garoppolo on Monday night, you should probably appreciate it because you had to wait a couple days to see that steaming hot pile of garbage from Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. So the 49ers hope that they round in the form here moving into October and they continue getting good Jimmy Garoppolo performances that do not look like what we just saw from the Broncos and the Colts and Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. Anyway, 49ers roster breakdown. Let's get to it. We talked about the quarterback position right now. Not too much else to say. Garoppolo and Purdy doing their thing out at practice. Jimmy Garoppolo spoke today. One more thing that I haven't talked about on the show, he mentioned the touchdown to Deebo Samuel. This was after the game the other day. Everybody, was, I think, really quick to rush to judgment. They're like, oh, he's lucky that's not a pick six. I mean, even Peyton Manning, the former Bronco, was quick to rush to judgment on the Monday Night Football simulcast that he does with his brother. Jimmy said that he threw that ball intentionally high because he saw the corner crashing on it. He wanted to get it to where only Deebo Samuel could catch it. So I think you have to give Jimmy Garoppolo credit because if anything, he has proven time and time again that he is a master of the quick release short game. And that was a quick release short pass to Deebo Samuel against the Broncos, and Garoppolo hit it nicely and it turned into a 50-plus yard touchdown from Deebo Samuel. Running back position for the 49ers. Let me highlight this up on the screen. We're right here. We're in the running back room. Tevin Coleman still on the practice squad, probably though still going to be getting carries for the 49ers. Didn't really get much the other day, but it seems that he is number 2 on the pecking order behind Jeff Wilson, who's obviously number 1. They'll be able to play this game with Tevin Coleman for 2 more games because by rule, if you're on the practice squad, you can be elevated for a Sunday game or a weekend game, whenever it's played, up to 3 times. And after the 3rd time, you have to get a full-time promotion to the 53-man roster. So the 49ers can get away with not paying Tevin Coleman as much, paying him that practice squad salary. What is it? Somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, and calling him up for these games to be the number 2 behind Jeff Wilson. They could do it for 2 more games. They could do it for this game at Carolina, and they can do it the following weekend at Atlanta. After that, they're going to have to call Tevin Coleman up. But as we know, the running back situation probably is going to shift before then. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to get healthy, whatever. I know Elijah Mitchell's out for a while, but you might as well just cross those decision bridges when you get to them. There's no reason to speculate all too much now. Now, I know that a lot of people want more of Jordan Mason. I think that you might get a little bit more of Jordan Mason on some of these kick returns because one big, concern that I would have, and I think the 49ers coaching staff has got to have, is that Ray McCloud, he's got a fumbling issue, and the fumbling issue goes back to his time with Pittsburgh. And 49ers fans know really well what fumbling issues can do in big games. I mean, just back to last year, the 49ers lost a couple games against Seattle because they were fumbling kickoffs. But that was Trenton Cannon, right? The first time against Seattle. Then I think it was Jermichael Hasty the second time. I can't remember exactly who that was on, but big time special teams miscues. And then you just rewind 10 more years before that, and you go to Kyle Williams in the punt game against the New York Giants in the NFC Championship game. I mean, these are mistakes that you simply cannot have as a football team. So if it's an issue for Ray McLeod, then the 49ers need to try out some other talent at that position. And maybe Jordan Mason will get some run in one of those kick return spots. I mean, that is pure speculation for me right now. But you guys want more touches for Jordan Mason? Well, one area where it might be needed might be that kick returner position if Ray McLeod can't prove that he can hang on to the football. All right, on to the 49ers wide receiver position. We'll give it a good highlight right here. By the way, if you want to follow along on this depth chart, I am going to copy and I'm going to paste and I'm going to put this into the comment section. There you guys go. The comment section is right below me. There you go. Go ahead and check it out. Right there. This is the link that you're going to want. You're going to be able to get to the spreadsheet and be able to see the 49ers roster right there. So go ahead and check that out. It's in the comment section. We're on the wide receiver position. I've highlighted them in blue. Brandon Ayuk, I thought Ayuk got some good separation this past game, and the advanced metrics fleshed that out. You know, you could watch individual one-off plays on the game tape and be like, oh, he got really open, or oh, he got blanketed, but you don't really know how a guy consistently did unless you take the full picture into account. Next Gen Stats does a good job tracking separation. And, you know, we just saw Pat Surtain play for the Broncos, and that might be the best cornerback that the 49ers face all season. Surtain was glue. He was sticky against the 49ers and Ayuk. And Ayuk only averaged about 2.08 yards of separation per route run against the Broncos, according to the tracking devices from Next Gen Stats. The league average is like 2.7. So he was under average as far as separation. Well, guess what Ayuk averaged against the Rams? And Jalen Ramsey obviously was one of the cornerbacks there. 4.8 yards of separation for Ayuk, even though Jimmy Garoppolo averaged 2.44 seconds from snap to release, which is really quick. So Ayuk was generating a whole lot of separation in a short amount of time, which is a great sign for the 49ers. Now, one of the best pieces of news out of this is that unless they make it to the Super Bowl, and so do the Broncos, which obviously after tonight, some people may have their doubts about that, they won't have to face Pat Surtain II again. I mean, that guy was sticky. He was glue. He was, right, draped all over Brandon Ayuk without committing pass interference. He made those third downs really tough. There was no window for Jimmy Garoppolo to throw into, but Ayuk got open against the Rams. I know the target count wasn't as high, but it was fine. The 49ers won. Garoppolo was efficient. It was good. What we track from Ayuk right now to be able to gauge whether or not this is going to be effective for the 49ers moving forward over the longer run is the separation that he got. And if he's getting over 4 yards of separation on average per snap, and he continues doing that moving forward, well, he's going to get plenty of footballs this year. You don't have to worry about that. Now, obviously, when we look at the receiver position, you can't talk about it without mentioning Deebo Samuel. And Samuel's playing awesome football. It's still really funny to me that people thought that he didn't want to play running back and that he wouldn't sign a contract if he didn't play running back, if he had to play running back for the 49ers. He's obviously a versatile weapon that could do a little bit of everything. And now he's really flexing his muscles at that receiver position. But the best quote from Deebo Samuel came after the game on Sunday. And Deebo said, I get the ball as a receiver in the open field, and I just turned it into running back mode. It's exactly what I was saying over the offseason that Deebo was thinking, right? He treats football, even if he's a receiver running after the catch in the open field, he treats the sport from the mentality of a running back at all times. There is no difference. There is no, I'm going to flip into wideout mode. I'm going to flip into running back mode. No, the essence of Deebo Samuel is that he is running wild against defensive backs with the mentality of a running back. And that is why Deebo Samuel has posted historically good YAC numbers. He led the league in yards after the catch per reception his rookie year in 2019. He led the NFL in that same category in 2020, even though that was his injury year. He led the league in that category in 2021, and he's got an early lead in that category here in 2022. And it's simple. It's because Deebo Samuel is the best receiver at doing that because defensive backs around the league have downsized over time, and he is a 220-pound monster. He gets the ball in his hands. He starts running people over. That's what we call a comparative advantage for the 49ers. And he's thinking about running people over regardless of what position he's playing, running back or wide receiver. That's the essence of Deebo Samuel. That's why the 49ers paid him, and that's why he happily agreed to the contract, because he wants to get back out there, or he wanted to get back out there and play football. Danny Gray has been back at practice. Just highlighted his name right there. He had a hip injury. He missed some time, obviously missed the game, missed the start of this week in practice. So we'll see if he's back out on the field this week. I talked about Ray McLeod. I think the 49ers would like to involve him a little bit more as a gadget weapon. But you know who's coming along, really, is Juwan Jennings. There's something about Juwan Jennings and playing the Rams that makes for some big catches on third downs. And he made a few against the Rams on Monday night. Now, remember when Juwan Jennings really made a name for himself last year was the week or the Sunday after the 49ers beat the Rams on Monday Night Football. The 49ers traveled to the East Coast. They played a losing team. They played Jacksonville. Juwan Jennings got under the Jaguars' skin and drew a personal foul flag for his blocking, and the 49ers rampaged through the Jaguars. That was back when Urban Meyer was still the coach. Well, it's a yearly similar situation here, right? The 49ers are going back to the East Coast after beating the Rams on Monday Night Football. And I think that this is a great opportunity again for Juwan Jennings against the team whose coach is probably on the hot seat, and Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers. But if Juwan can keep on establishing himself the way that he did last week as just a reliable third down target, that number 3 wide receiver, the future is really, really, really bright for him, right? And he could start thinking about making some money here coming up in the future. So Juwan Jennings, from practice squad his first year to massive catches last year and big time contributions for the 49ers in the run game last year, he's turning into a really consistently dependable receiving target for this team. Obviously, he did drop that one pass on third down this past Monday, but the 49ers have to be excited about him. All right, let's talk about the 49ers offensive line. I highlighted these guys right there on the screen. Today, we talked to Chris Furster, and Furster said that right here, if you look at the right guard position, my mouse is right over it. You got Spencer Burford is probably going to start for the 49ers again at right guard, but expect the 49ers to mix Daniel Brunskill in, just like they did last week. Brunskill is back from his hamstring strain, and the 49ers are of the belief that he has to play. He's on a restricted free agent contract, so he's making a lot more money than somebody like the rookie Spencer Burford, a fourth-round pick. But the 49ers believe that there's not enough of a gap between what Brunskill brings to the table and what Spencer Burford brings to the table to justify sitting one of the two. They think they have to play both of them. Agree with it or not, that is the philosophy. That is straight from the horse's mouth. That's what Chris Furster, the O-line coach, said today. Now, he also said that here, Jake Brendel, 49ers center, has a firm hold on the center job, that Brunskill is firmly the backup center. Brunskill will not be splitting time with Brendel at that center spot. And Aaron Banks is not splitting time with anybody at the left guard spot. Nick Zakelj, the rookie, he's just developing, backing up. Obviously, at left tackle, you see highlighted in the pink right here, Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz. The 49ers' first two options are both hurt right now. MCL for McKivitz, high ankle for Williams. So the 49ers are on third option right here. That is Jalen Moore. So it's going to be up to Jalen Moore to block Brian Burns in this game. Brian Burns, good edge rusher, first round 2019 draft for the Panthers. Lines up on both sides of the formation. So you're going to be looking at McGlinchey and Moore matched up against Brian Burns in what I think is the most important matchup of the 49ers offense against this Carolina defense, especially since the Panthers will be missing their top safety, Jeremy Chin. You have to find a way to block Brian Burns or get the ball out quickly like they did last week to neutralize Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, and all those guys. It's going to be a team effort, but the 49ers will be working with their third-string left tackle here for the foreseeable future in Jalen Moore, who spoke today, who's excited about the opportunity, but the 49ers certainly hope that it goes better than his initial action at Denver when he had to come into the game. And he initially was ahead of Colton McKivitz on the depth chart for that game because McKivitz was still coming off an injury. It didn't go well, so they went to their third stringer in that game against Denver, McKivitz, after Williams got hurt. And McKivitz then started the next one against the Rams before his own knee injury. So now it's Jalen Moore time. And no, Daniel Brunskill is not going to be walking through that door to help at tackle. One other interesting thing that Chris Furster said today is that Daniel Brunskill wasn't even ready to play left guard this past week. He was still too rusty to play anything but center or right guard. He was still just wasn't going to be able to slide over to the left side. So he wasn't able to play left guard, much less the tackle spots that he manned in 2019. In fact, the 49ers' next option right now at tackle beyond Jalen Moore is not Daniel Brunskill. It is Blake Hance. Hance started at tackle for the Browns for a few games last season, and he was waived at cutdown day by the Browns, and the 49ers signed him off of waivers. Hance would be the 49ers swing tackle in this game coming up against Carolina if anybody got hurt. Then if a second tackle got hurt, the emergency tackle would be Daniel Brunskill. I don't know who you'd put a tackle beyond that as far as who's available. We might see the 49ers, you look at the practice squad. You got Leroy Watson, raw prospect. Jason Poe certainly wouldn't play tackle. He is a guard, and you have Keith Ismail, who is a center on there. Alfredo Gutierrez is the international pathway player. So that is the 49ers offensive line machination for right now. Let's move on to the D-line. D-line update. You probably saw the video. I posted an interview of Javon Kinlaw today. He said he's got some fluid buildup in his knees, but the good news for the 49ers is that Kinlaw says that his knee is not in pain coming off that ACL reconstruction surgery. To me, it sounded that Kinlaw is going to be back sooner rather than later for the 49ers. He said the knee's not in pain. I mean, a couple touching things that he said. He's obviously an emotional guy around this injury because just of how much this means to him and how much he's been through, right? And he was just so, you could tell he was distraught. He was upset. It was his birthday on Monday, and he did everything he could to play, but he underwent this pregame workout, and D'Amico Ryans and the 49ers medical staff determined, no, we're not going to risk it. We're not going to play you. And D'Amico was actually the one who let Javon Kinlaw know before the game out on the field that Javon wouldn't be playing on his birthday against the Rams. And Javon was visibly upset by it. He says that, he reaches out to his mom to help him through these times. And anybody who's been an athlete who's been stuck on the sidelines because of an injury issue, especially recurring injury issue, can probably empathize with what Javon Kinlaw is going through. But the good news is that they're taking care of the fluid buildup in the knee, which can happen after operations like the one that he underwent. And there is no pain there. And to me, that means that Javon Kinlaw probably will be back sooner rather than later. The 49ers would certainly like that because, as you can see, Eric Armstead is out right now as well. And, with Armstead, this might be a season-long kind of thing. It's plantar fasciitis in his foot. That's a rather mysterious condition that can come, it can go. There are treatments, but I don't think there's anything foolproof. It's not like a fracture, for example, that, 6 weeks, this is going to heal. You do this rehab. This can kind of linger for Eric Armstead. And for a big guy, 6'7" plus, he's obviously putting a lot of driving weight on that foot. He's got to have that foot in decent shape. So I don't think he was 100% when he came back against the Rams. And, it flared back up, but it was a big game, and it was important for Eric Armstead to play against the Rams. And, he cleared way for one of those Nick Bosa sacks on the game move. So he contributed. Armstead definitely contributed before he left with that injury. That being said, maybe the 49ers pace it intelligently with Armstead moving forward. I think they're a lot better than the Panthers this week. The Falcons are a little bit better than many may have expected, but I do think the 49ers can beat them without Armstead. So maybe you give him treatment until the game against Kansas City 3 weeks from now. That's just speculation on my part, but right now the 49ers are definitely down a couple players on the interior. They got really, really good play from Kevin Givens against the Rams. They got really good play from Ridgeway against the Rams. And Kerry Hyder over here, we could even move him to the inside because he played mainly inside against the Rams. And, previously had played only on the outside. He's a Swiss Army knife that's going to be allocated wherever he's needed. So I've got Hyder on the inside now. You saw that move in real time because it was inside snaps for him majority inside snaps for Hyder last year in Seattle. With the 49ers in 2020, Hyder was an edge rusher just because that's where guys got hurt. Nick Bosa, D Ford were out. And in 2019 with the Cowboys, Kerry Hyder was a 50-50 split inside and outside. So he's just a defensive lineman. He can give you snaps anywhere. And the 49ers are certainly thankful about that right now from Kerry Hyder, who they really, really need to round out that defensive line room. If they need to on the inside, they can always call up Akeem Spence. If both Armstead and Kinlaw are out, they still have 2 practice squad elevations left for Akeem Spence. Not much more to say about Nick Bosa other than he, Ebukam, and Amenahu are all top 25 pressure players right now, pressure edge players right now. And Drake Jackson, I don't think, is all too far behind them. And then the sub there is Kamoko Toure. So this is an insanely deep D-line room that is also playing the run really well. And as we transition to talking about the linebackers, consider this. NFL Next Gen Stats, another good one. The 49ers are allowing only 0.3 yards per rush before contact. 0.3. So on average, opponents get a third of a yard before hitting contact. That's how good this run defense is. And that's even with some of these injury issues. That's how well Kevin Givens is playing, how well Hassan Ridgeway is playing, guys like Kerry Hyder are playing. They are flexing their depth. They are stonewalling the run. And that's allowing Nick Bosa to set up for a historic year. Obviously, 30 pressures already for Nick Bosa. He's number 1 in the NFL in both pressures and sacks. His 30. Number 2 is Micah Parsons from the Cowboys at 22. So Nick Bosa should absolutely be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation if this continues. All right, moving on to the linebacker position as we go through the 49ers roster. Linebacker, here we go. Warner, looking good. Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire is on IR. So Flanagan Fowles is your third linebacker. But the 49ers, they're nickel on 100% of the snaps against the Rams. Now, would that have changed had they had Azeez Al-Shire available? Probably. They probably wouldn't have done nickel for 100% of the snaps, because the glory of the 49ers top 3 linebackers is these guys can cover receivers, especially Warner, right? Warner was covering Cooper Kupp there in the red zone. But due to necessity, the 49ers obviously went all nickel in this game. The Rams spread it out. Rams are trying for a little bit of a quick strike offense. The 49ers didn't have Azeez Al-Shire. He's on IR with a sprained MCL. So they decided to go nickel the whole game. And it will be fascinating to me to see what the 49ers do as far as alignments go moving forward, especially considering the fact that they're down 1 linebacker, because they have 2 defensive backs potentially coming back into the fold. And those 2 defensive backs, as you well know, are Jimmy Ward and Jason Verrett over here on the right side in the injured reserve column. So let's just, assume, and this might not be likely for this week, but let's just assume that both Ward and Verrett are ready to go this Sunday. And I think it's going to take a little bit longer, especially because the 49ers have the luxury of it taking a little bit longer because they're playing so well defensively and the secondary is clicking. But what if these 2 players have to go this Sunday, or what if these 2 players need to be reintegrated into the lineup at some point within the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is obviously really likely since that IR practice window is only open for 3 weeks? Well, the 49ers, they're holding this close to the vest, but there's a couple things that they can do. Why don't we talk about Jason Verrett first? And I could, really draw out the machinations on this depth chart and roster to help you understand what the 49ers might do. You take a look at Nickelback. Diamador Lenore and Samuel Womack, 2 young guys, are helming that position right now. But if Verrett comes back, you're obviously not going to sit your big money corner Charvarius Ward. And Emmanuel Moseley is playing way, way too well to not be on the field. So what do? I think that you might, because we've seen this before from the 49ers, this is just going to be a temporary shift, so nobody freak out. But I think you take Emmanuel Moseley, you move E-Man down to that nickelback spot, and then you take Jason Verrett, and you could plug Jason Verrett into the cornerback spot opposite Charvarius Ward. So then you have 3 really good corners playing for you in Ward, Charvarius Ward, Jason Verrett, and Emmanuel Moseley. You don't have to do this on 100% of snaps. You can do it on a pitch count for Jason Verrett. You could slowly work him in. But I don't think you want to get to a position a month from now where somebody goes down like Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley, and you have to throw Jason Verrett into the mix cold turkey. I think that's what you want to avoid. Emmanuel Mosley has played the slot before. You could also mix and match this in different ways over the course of downs, and you could get really creative. But in general, if you take a look at what I have up on the screen, I think this could work. This kind of compromise could work to get Verrett back into the action. Now, obviously, that bumps Deommodore Lenoir back down into depth. That, keeps Samuel Womack as depth. That keeps Ambry Thomas as depth. But as we saw last year, you want proven veterans manning these roles. All right, I'm going to undo what I just did so we don't go too far with that. We're back to what it was: Ward, Mosley, Lenoir, and Jason Verrett. Now, how about the safety position? Here's Jimmy Ward over here. How do the 49ers man this? Well, if the 49ers are playing exclusively nickel with their linebackers, that means they're only currently playing 2 linebackers. I think you could seriously think about taking Talanoa Hufanga. This is going to be maybe a little bit radical to some of you, and plugging him into that third linebacker spot. Glorified linebacker, but really a defensive back, because you could be creative with Hufanga. He could be kind of a joker. It's not like you're pigeonholing him into a linebacker only spot, but you can rely on the fact, and you can count on the fact that this guy is just a film rat, knows exactly what's going on the field, prepares like nobody else, and is good in both coverage and near the line of scrimmage to keep him on the field while Jimmy Ward is slotted in as the safety opposite to Sean Gibson. So here you go. This is what the secondary would look like. And by the way, I mean, this is without Verrett in there. So if Verrett was in there, you could have theoretically Verrett in at right cornerback, Mosley at nickel, Jimmy Ward to Sean Gibson, and Talanoa Hufanga over here in one of the linebacker spots. And you would mix and match the position in a way that Hufanga obviously wouldn't come off the field. So you could take Gibson off the field if you're, in a situation where you want to keep Emmanuel Mosley in the game, right? You want to keep more defensive backs in the game to cover. So maybe Gibson would be your first player off. Or maybe early on in the process, Jimmy Ward might be your first player off if you're easing him back into the swing of things. But either way, this is going to be a fascinating test for 49ers defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, because he's going to have more tools to play with than it seems there are natural, logical spots on the roster. But when you saw the breakdown that I just did, I do think that it is possible to get both Verrett in the game and Jimmy Ward in the game while not taking out top performers elsewhere. And those top performers are Deshaun Gibson at safety and Emmanuel Mosley at cornerback. You got to keep those guys in somehow, some way. And I think that the 49ers can do it. All right, we're going to undo it here so we go back to what it was before. And I think we have it there. Yep, we have Ward, Mosley, Lenoir, Hufanga, Gibson. By the way, the top graded safety in the NFL right now, PFF, is Talanoa Hufanga. The second graded safety, tied with Minkah Fitzpatrick, is Deshaun Gibson. So if you've got the 2 top safeties in the NFL, as far as PFF grade goes, and the tape and, everything kind of, really agrees with that. You can't just take one of those guys out. You have to find a way to work Jimmy Ward back in. But the thing about Jimmy Ward is that he's one of the best football players on the 49ers. Another thing about Jimmy is he's really versatile. So Jimmy can maybe come down and give you some nickel snaps. It is going to be awesome to see how the 49ers play this game of Tetris. DeMeco Ryans has a lot of tools to play with. I'm going to chart this really, really closely to see who goes where on this defense so the 49ers can optimize their strength on that side of the football. All right, that's the 49ers Thursday night roster breakdown. Why don't we go to some questions? I see 249 comments. And I see Mike with the latest one. Warner did literally cover Kupp in the red zone. That was one of the more impressive plays from this past game from the 49ers. I will give you guys a couple minutes to put questions in, and then we're going to call it a night. It's going to be an early morning for me tomorrow. Still have some of my piece to write on the 49ers. It'll be fun. A water break. How's Wishnowsky looking? Good. 49ers are top 10 in punt DVOA. I think Wishnowsky's looking fine. I don't think this past game he was as good as pinning the ball back, but Wishnowsky's earning that contract, the extension that he just got. Wilson did just get paid. Those of you just joining talked about Russell Wilson's short game being garbage, not good. And to the Denver fans who want Russell Wilson cut, it'd be $107 million in dead money. That's like over half of what the salary cap is. So Russell Wilson is there to stay in Denver. And yeah, the 49ers loss in Denver looks bad, but October is when NFL teams rounded the form. And the 49ers are trying to do that right now. All right, back in the Q&A mode. Let's see. I'm not going to predict the blockbuster trade right now because I'm still trying to figure out what the 49ers actually need, right? Where do they need to be stronger? A week or two from now, a big injury can happen, and we'll be like, oh yeah, they need to make a trade to bolster this position, or we could continue watching the offensive line and all agree, okay, they need a right guard to make a serious Super Bowl push, and maybe they make a trade there. I doubt it because Shanahan has never put guards at that kind of premium. But, as far as the deadline goes, let's wait until we're closer to the deadline so we could see what the 49ers' actual needs are. Thoughts on when Kittle will be reintegrated into the offense? I made an entire video about that yesterday, so go ahead and check it out. I wouldn't freak out about it. Kittle is being reintegrated into the offense as we speak. I mean, they did throw to him in the most important part of the game, and it was a great throw from Garoppolo, almost a great catch from Kittle. His second foot was out of bounds. Unfortunate for the 49ers, but I don't think anybody would be having this conversation if his foot landed just like 2 inches inbounds, 2 inches closer to the green instead of the white on the grass. Do you think Kyle pursues a conservative playbook against Carolina since Jimmy G may still be getting his legs under him, or will Kyle expand the playbook, especially with some deep balls with Gray? Deep passes are a function of pass protection and what the defense is playing against you. So if you need to loosen up the box, if they're coming in a little too close and you have good enough protection to do it, you do go deep to somebody like Danny Gray. Now, Danny's coming off a hip injury. He missed last week. No guarantee that he plays this week or is active this week, right? So let's wait and see there. I do know that the 49ers are better than Carolina because the Panthers come with an anemic offense. It's ranked 31 or 32 by whatever metric you want to check out. Baker Mayfield is struggling, and part of Kyle Shanahan's game plan is going to be – oops, knocked my camera down there a little bit. Part of Kyle Shanahan's game plan is going to be, dictated by the advantage that his defense has in this game. That's just the reality of football. If your defense is dominating the game, you might not be airing the ball out and taking many risks downfield, right? So I think that question right there, it's just like there's too many variables to give you a firm answer about it right now. I don't think Jennings is at risk of missing this week because he was right back at practice in a limited fashion. I talked to him after the game. No hint of his ankle injury after the game against the Rams. So I think Jennings is going to be back and good. All right, let's take a quick break. We don't have all too much longer to go, but make sure you subscribe to The Athletic and make sure you follow along on Twitter. And right now, like everybody, go ahead and just like hit that sub button, right? Hit the sub button, hit the like button, do all that you can. We're at 295 viewers, which is pretty cool for a Thursday night. The show is blowing up again. I love to see that. Maybe we cross 300 here in the next few minutes, but I know there's a lot of you out there, and that means there's a lot of you out there that can hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and that would really, really help us out. I talked about Nick Bosa versus Baker Mayfield, the feud this morning, and that's what I'm going to finish up on today. So why don't I share the article from this morning, and we could talk some Bosa to wrap up. There he is, the man of the hour. Nick Bosa's reunion with Baker Mayfield highlights the 49ers-Panthers matchup. Copy and paste. Put this into the chat section. Go ahead and subscribe to The Athletic through this piece. It has some entertaining quotes from Nick Bosa, including the one about him taunting Baker Mayfield back in 2019. Remember what happened in 2019. First, the 49ers beat Baker Mayfield and the Browns 31-3. And then they beat the Panthers, the team they're playing this weekend, 51-13. Between those two games, Nick Bosa had 5 sacks and an epic 46-yard interception return against Carolina. It was after those two games that we knew that we were dealing with a potential future Hall of Famer in Nick Bosa. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer yet, but I'm saying that if he continues doing what he's doing right now, if he continues plowing forward with the production that he is generating right now, Nick Bosa will be in Canton one day. Take this. Mike sent this to me the other day. I hope that I could pop it open right now. Yeah, I think he sent it to me on WhatsApp, not on text. I don't think I have it right now. But Nick Bosa has cracked the top 10 in all-time sacks for the San Francisco 49ers franchise. And this guy is, at the start of his career. He has cracked the top 10. He's going to be number 9, number 8 very soon. The next guy to catch is Andre Carter. He could probably get all the way up to near Dana Stubblefield within the next 2 seasons. And then all the way up to the all-time leader, Bryant Young, at some point. But once I get my hands on that list, I'll share it with you, the top 10 in sacks for the 49ers. And Nick Bosa is already number 10. Oh, Mike just sent it to me. Perfect. Why don't we get this one up on the screen? Thanks, Mike. All right, here, the top 10 49ers in sacks. You see Bosa there at the bottom? 39 games, 30 and a half sacks in his career. Andre Carter is next, 32 sacks in 69 games. So Bosa's a sack and a half away from the number 9 spot. Chris Dolman, 38. It would take a really big game for Bosa to get there, but maybe by the end of this road trip, Bosa is at number 8. Later this season, he could get to Justin Smith, 43 and a half sacks over 110 games. Aldon Smith, 44 sacks over 50 games, also reachable. Now, Aldon, look at that, 50 games for Aldon Smith. 50. Do you see that? That's crazy. It's a sad story of some wasted potential there for Aldon Smith, because if he was able to get that many sacks in 50 games, Bosa is on a relatively similar pace, but not even that toward. That's almost a sack a game for Aldon Smith. Bosa's 30 and a half and 39. Aldon was 44 and 50. That's amazing. Bosa, if he gets 15 more this year, so if he gets 21 sacks total this year, he will have passed Dwayne Board. Dwayne Board had 45 sacks in 117 games. Probably hard to catch Stubblefield this year. It would take like a 22, 23 sack season to catch Dana Stubblefield, who's number 4. But by next season, if Bosa stays healthy, that's possible. Ahmad Brooks is always sneakily on this list because he stayed with the 49ers for a while. 51 and a half sacks, 3rd all-time for the 49ers. And then you have a couple greats at the very top. Charles Haley, 66 and a half in 106 games, obviously Hall of Famer. And your new Hall of Famer, Bryant Young, 89 and a half sacks over 208 games. He was an Iron Man of sorts for the 49ers. So fascinating stuff as Nick Bosa is climbing up this sack list. Now, as far as Bosa in this game on Sunday, I talked about how they beat the Panthers 51-13. And that happened, obviously, 3 years ago to the day tomorrow. No. Correction. 3 years ago to the day tomorrow, October 7th, is when Bosa planted the flag in retribution to Baker Mayfield. That was Monday Night Football against Mayfield and the Browns. The Panthers 51-13 game, that was a couple weeks after that. So we're not at the 3-year anniversary of that yet. But Bosa wrecked shop in both of those games. Taylor Moton was the right tackle for Carolina in that game. The 51-13 game. He didn't give up all that much damage. Moton actually played well there. He's actually playing well this year. The Panthers, the one thing that they're doing well offensively is protecting. The protection has been decent. It hasn't been great. It's been decent for them. Everything else has been terrible. The receivers have been terrible. Robbie Anderson especially has been really bad. I can't say everything. Christian McCaffrey's on that team, but Mayfield's been atrocious. It's just been the Christian McCaffrey show. Leads the team in catches, leads the team in rushing yards. One-dimensional offenses aren't going to do really well against the 49ers. I do anticipate this being screen city for the Panthers against the 49ers to try to neutralize Nick Bosa. And Nick Bosa can help that he doesn't have to face the officials in this game. That is the theme of my article as well, so you should go ahead and check it out. The left tackle is Ekwonu, so we'll see. And he's not as good as Moton. His numbers are he's given up a lot more pressure on the left side. So maybe Bosa lines up against that left side a whole lot more often than he does against the right. But Screen City to McCaffrey is coming. All right, everybody, follow along on Twitter. Like this video, sub to the channel. Thank you, and welcome again for those of you who are new to our 2022 49ers coverage. We started talking about Russell Wilson. We finished with about 49 minutes of 49ers talk. And if I sign off right now within the next 10 seconds, this video will be at the 49-minute mark. I think that's fitting. Everybody, take care.